Hello, welcome to the 12th Man podcast. As you can see from the yellow and black, it is deadline day. Plenty of clubs trying to get business done. We're going to be keeping you up to date with all those deadline day deals as they happen.
Phones here in Irving, they keep
Phones there in front, TVs on in front here. Although, as one point out off air, I'm not sure how reliable Sky Sports are anymore. They seem to be behind the rest of the so-called experts, your David Ornsteins and your Fabrizio Romanos. We're going to be speaking about the Premier League's results last weekend. Obviously, we didn't get to do a show on Wednesday night. The StreamYard went down. So we're going to go back on that to start. We're going to be looking at the European draws, the Champions League draw, the Europa League draw, and we'll touch on the Conference League draw as well. We'll be looking ahead to a bumper weekend of football, including the Old Firm, Newcastle and Spurs, and Man United against Liverpool, all on Sunday. That's a really bumper Sunday of football. We're also going to be speaking, of course, as you can see from the ticker at the bottom, deadline day. That's all the big stories at the moment. So we will update that if we have to. I kind of done that about 30 minutes before the show, and I've kind of been adding it as we're coming on air because there is plenty happening.
We could be on for a while tonight.
We could be on for a while, Owen, and we could be back later on, depending on how busy it is. We will see. I suppose, Owen, we will come do deadline day and more content later on, but we should start with some of the big stories because that is what's on the news at the moment. Chelsea are very confident of securing a loan with an obligation for Jadon Sancho, and I'm hearing that they are pushing very, very hard right up until this deadline to get a deal for Osman done. Would Osman give Chelsea a completely different dynamic?
It'll be a top signing for them. That's what they need. They need a top striker. But in my opinion, Chelsea's problem is not scoring goals. The problem is keeping them out. Because you seen at the weekend, like I know Wolves were very poor, but like they scored 6 against Wolves and they could have had a handful. And but I think Osman he has an upgrade on what they have. Like, but whether they get it done or not is a different thing because they're trying to get him to sign on to their wage structure, and he's not really sure about doing that yet. So whether he moves to
He's been offered huge money as well to go to Saudi Arabia, and that's probably the sticking point. And one man that is on his way to Saudi Arabia is Ivan Toney, linked with Spurs, Arsenal, Chelsea for the past 12 months, but it looks like he is making his move to Saudi Arabia. A lot of people getting involved in this one, saying, it's the money's too good to turn him in, or saying that Toney, he's worked so hard to get his sort of in that England team, get himself as an established Premier League striker, and now he's going to Saudi Arabia on a big money deal. So Paul Merson says it's a bittersweet move. He probably would have preferred to stay in England, but something's gone wrong there, surely, because he's a striker that can score goals, but it seems to be there's no takers for him in the Premier League.
Well, we've seen earlier on in the week that Chelsea run from, but they're going full steam ahead with Osman. It's a weird one, because as they said there, they're working hard, he worked hard to get on the England team, and that's his international career over now, you would assume, if he makes the move there, because you've seen it with Henderson when he moved there. He's not got picked since, so it's a weird one for Toney because it could go on to any side in the Premier League, I would argue.
Yeah. Some of the other big stories, Arsenal were exploring a deal for Raheem Sterling, but we're hearing that's pretty unlikely to happen. And as it stands, Sterling is likely to stay at Chelsea and be an unregistered player and be unavailable until January. It's difficult to get into footballers' head. Of course, they make so much money, but I'm sure Sterling's pretty frustrated at this situation that, it was only kind of announced on that first weekend of the season. He hasn't had long to try and suss a move out. And Arsenal were kind of in the market, but they've not got the player they wanted in that attacking area. So Sterling was possibly a short-term fix, but I think the finances involved, Chelsea would have to pay him off. Arsenal are not interested in giving him big wages, and it's looking like it's too difficult to do, and Sterling's going to be stuck. So it'll be a disappointing day for Raheem Sterling if come 11 o'clock tonight he's still at Chelsea.
I have no sympathy for him, to be honest. He did it to my club as well. Cried about getting out of there, so he's made his bed now. He moved to Chelsea he's moved to Chelsea on the big money. So hey, he's gonna be earning 300 grand a week for doing nothing. Like, so hey, he's not in the worst position.
Yeah, fair few people watching. So if you want to get involved, ask us any questions, talk about any big transfer stories, just stick in a comment and we can put it on the screen as usual, of course. Some of the other stories, which says Newcastle's deal for Mark Gahey has fallen through, and that was their main target this summer. It's probably. I still think it's been a poor window for Newcastle. I know they've kept hold of the likes of Gordon, Isak, and Gimares, but they haven't really strengthened. And it's without European football, I suppose they won't have as many games, but shows you how difficult it is now for Newcastle compared to your Man Cities and your Chelseas, how it is they come on now and just sort of bankroll your way to the top because the rules make it so much more difficult to do that. And Newcastle are kind of unwilling to sell any of their best players. And the Gahey deal, they were confident on. Palace have really dug their heels in. And I think Newcastle made a huge error not getting that deal done earlier in the window. I think after he had that strong Euros, Palace added another 10 or 15 million onto the valuation, and we're hearing that it would take 75 million now to get him. And I think even that's too much for any club. Mark Gay hasn't done enough, I think, to justify that kind of price tag. And Newcastle, Eddie Howe's very insistent he doesn't want anyone else, so they're going to wait. Kind of policy that Liverpool's had for a few years of if you can't get the right player, don't panic. They are exploring a big money move for Anthony Elanga. I'm not sure whether that's because they've got the money there to do something, and if they don't really want to strengthen at the back because there's no one out there, they feel they could go for a wide man. But what's your thoughts on the Gahey and the possible exploring the deal for Anthony Elanga at Forest?
Well, to start with on Gahey, I do agree with you. I don't know in what world is he worth 75. Obviously, he's only worth what Palace think he's worth, but 75 million is a bit steep for a player who's not really done much in the game. Really, he's only come into the forefront in these past 12 months. So, but Palace made him captain as well, so he's their newly appointed club captain. And I think after they sold Anderson to Fulham, I thought as soon as Anderson left to Fulham, and I sort of knew that he wasn't on the move. In terms of Alanga, it's a strange one because they don't really need anyone in that area. Like, who do they have on the right? They have Almiron, Jacob Murphy, or is it Jacob Murphy?
Maybe something's happening with Almiron because they have been trying to get him out. Maybe they're trying to shift him because you've got Gordon, you've got Barnes, Isak plays out in the left sometimes if Wilson plays.
Yeah.
And they've got Murphy. So Elanga coming on, maybe the left footer. They've kind of only got right footers, haven't they, apart from Almiron? So maybe they're looking at a different option.
It's a strange.
But we're hearing that this would take big money to get him out. Now there's no fee quoted, but Alex Crook is saying exploring big money move. So I'm imagining that's probably upwards of 40 million.
Oh, for Elanga, like he's.
I'm just going to stop you there because we have some breaking news here. Giovanni Lo Celso, I seen it was close to a move back to his Real Betis as before we come on, and I'm just seeing that is now confirmed. He is going back to Real Betis. He was one of the players the Spurs were looking to shift today. They shifted a lot of Dave Wood, but the two players that remained were Lo Celso and Reguilon. No update on Reguilon at the moment, but Lo Celso is going to be going to Real Betis, and we're hearing that Spurs have also agreed a deal for Johnny Cardoza. Now, nobody knows who this fella is, to be honest, but we're hearing that I've never heard a name like this, especially in the Premier League. He's a number 6, but we're hearing that the deal that they've agreed with Real Betis is for a future sale of 30 million euros. So Spurs have an option to buy him for 30 million euro within a specific time period, but he's still a Real Betis player for now.
That's a weird one.
Yeah, strange one. But Lo Celso goes back, and Spurs are getting some sort of fee, probably less than what they wanted. I think the Reguilon one there was less priority on because I do believe if he doesn't get a move by Monday, I think he will probably have his contract wrapped up and he'll be let go because his contract runs out next year. He won't be registered. I think Lo Celso was a player that possibly could have been registered. He featured last year. Reguilon hasn't featured at Spurs for a number of years, so I'm imagining that if no tickers for Reguilon, he'll be paid up for his last year and he'll be sent on his way. But just the first bit of breaking news as we come on air one. All our big stories. Ramsdale goes to Southampton. Arsenal replace him with Neto from Bournemouth on loan. But I want to have to say, a lot of Arsenal fans are panicking out there. They think they're a bit short in the attacking area. Nketiah's gone. Smith Rowe, Nketiah hasn't confirmed it, but we're hearing he's going to Palace. Smith Rowe's left.
And I know their new signings injured already, so he's
Mourinho's
out
got
for.
injured, but they've only really got Saka, Nelson, Trossard, Martinelli, Havertz, and Jesus. And Jesus is injury prone. Havertz isn't really a striker. The Karius are only really the only real number 9. He's on his way to Crystal Palace. A lot of Arsenal fans are
Uh,
panicking on X right now, saying they're a bit short in that area.
I've sort of said that. I've sort of said that all summer. I know they. It's a strange one because I thought they would have went hell or high water to get Ivan Tony,
Mm.
but they're obviously didn't fancy it for
He was
whatever
available
reason.
for 40 million. So again, I think that would have been a decent fee. I think for Arsenal, it could have been doable. If they're
I
letting Nketiah go for 25, you put 15 million that, you have a better striker than even Tony. But there is question marks about Tony's attitude. Obviously, the off the field stuff with the gambling hasn't helped, but there is questions about his attitude, and his wage demands are sky high.
I think. Well, I don't know. I think I was hearing that he's going to get the guts of 250 at Saudi. So
£320,000 a week.
300. I thought it was 200. That's
320.
that's mental. But I wouldn't be panicking if I was Arsenal, but like Arsenal fan. But they are too reliant on Saka, and he's a player that always seems to pick up. He always misses a few games a season, so it'll be interesting to see how they manage his minutes. But then again, we'll speak about it later on when we go on to the Champions League draw. You won't have really much room to rotate this year because of how the Champions League's working.
Yeah, well, of course, it was meant to be me and Darren on Wednesday night, but Darren unavailable today, and that show fell through due to issues with StreamYard. Thankfully, them issues are resolved tonight, so you're going to be put on the hot seat about last week's football.
That's
It's me and
because
Darren.
they knew I wasn't coming on. You see, so they said nah, not
This isn't
today.
the show's not worth having without you on. So Owen, it feels strange talking about this because it was 6 days ago, 5 days ago, so, in some cases, but it does feel like quite a fair few days ago. Now that Brighton did stun Man United by that last gasp winner, and a lot of United fans felt that they got enough to get something from the game. I don't think the first half was great. The second half was much better contest, but United made some strange substitutions. Well, Ten Hag made the substitutions, and it kind of
They
gave
did.
Brighton the upper hand in the final 10 or 15 minutes. And in the end, they pushed United so far back they couldn't get out. Then they got that last minute goal, and probably on the balance of play in the last 15 minutes, deserved it.
I thought he took off. He took off Bruno, which was all right, Darren. He took off Bruno, and that really shifted the balance of it for me because I thought up until that point, United were in the game. They were playing well. They had that offside from Zerky because he had the ball in the net, even though it was going on already. But when he took Bruno off, and I think who else did he take off? He took off Dalot, wasn't it, as well for Anthony? And I think Anthony could have done better for the second goal. He didn't really track back that well. Maguire for the first goal was a shambles. So it's very strange, and we spoke about it. We spoke about it before. If he doesn't get off to a good start, um, is under pressure, and uh, we know obviously there's a big game coming up at the weekend. So if uh, if he doesn't get a good result there, which obviously I'm hoping he doesn't. He could be in serious pressure going into that international break because they do have some tricky games coming up as well. But when you look at that from a Brighton perspective too, we have to give them their flowers. They've started their season very well, and they've made some very, very decent signings. I know they signed Matt O'Reilly from Celtic, and I know he got injured there during the week, and they signed that left back from Turkey, mind in the Euros, Kanoglu or whatever I think you
Mm.
pronounce.
And just a wee bit more content on that Lascelles deal. We're hearing that it's very nominal fee, €4 million plus bonuses. So
It.
again, a player that
Big
Spurs are
loss.
just desperate to shift. His contract was running out as well. And it's really got nothing for him really when you think about it. But he moves his back to
He's,
Betis.
he's paid 30 million for him, didn't you?
Yeah, I think something around that. And they've let him go for peanuts really. But I think Ange doesn't seem as part of the future, so he moves on. And here we
I
go.
think he's a player. I think he's a player that suits La Liga better. He didn't really suit them.
Getting back to Man United, Danny's saying that it was poor management from Ten Hag, and if he plays Bruno as a false nine again, he's going to be in big trouble. I don't think that worked against Fulham, so I was surprised to see him do it again against Brighton.
I don't think he can afford to do it against. I'm going to have what we're going to say there.
No, I think you're right. I don't think he can do the same this weekend. But the other decision I think he's got a way up in his head is Rashford, because he's offered nothing in 2 games, and I think Garnacho was a game changer when he came on. And if you're looking at it right now, who the better player is, Garnacho should be in that Man United team.
Well, interesting you speak about Rashford because Ten Hag just came out and had a go. I don't know if you've seen it. Had a go at Alan Shearer for criticising Rashford's start of the season, but for me, like I genuinely thought, because we know Rashford has a good season, has a bad season, has a good season, sort of thing. So I expected him to come back full fire, and because he has a point to prove. He got dropped from the England team, and he hasn't been called up, to my knowledge, for the coming up internationals. But I agree with you. Garnacho should be in that team, and it's a strange one. I think he'll start Zerky at the weekend because he doesn't have Mount. Mount's injured, so that's one of his false nines out. So if he plays, and I think if he plays a false nine against us, we'll give him a hammer.
Yeah. Just a wee bit more on that Lo Celso deal. We spoke about Lo Celso, but the player that Spurs, Cardoza, they're looking at, Spurs see this as a huge opportunity to get him for such a small fee.
What age is he?
22. He's American, but very highly rated by Real Betis, and Betis struggling for money. That's why Spurs have seen an opportunity here to sort of take a hit on Lo Celso, and they believe that getting first sort of shotgun on this Cardoza player for 30 million euros in the next 12 months or so is a real steal. So again, Betis was the team that kind of made this possible. Obviously, they hadn't the money to pay Lo Celso. Spurs wanted somewhere in the region of 20 million euros, but they are really struggling with money. And they wanted Lo Celso so bad they're prepared to give up somebody they may believe has a high future. So maybe Spurs could be the big winners of this. We'll have to see. Time will tell. But like you say, I think there's a big decision for Ten Hag to make on Sunday regards Rashford, because his performances in the last few games and sort of the last year at Man United have been poor. And I think Garnacho, if he plays, has to play on the left. It'll be interesting to see, will he play Rashford through the middle now that Mount's injured? Does he move Rashford as number 9? No, we know that he's had a bit of a huff when he's played there, but
if he does,
anyway.
I know. If he does play Rashford at number 9, I think our centre backs will have a field day. He's quick guy, but I think Van Dijk and Canate will have him for strength.
Yeah, United's midfield is very light for Sunday. Could give a well advantage. Of course, United are closing in on the signing of Manuel Ugarte, but not going to be done on time. It had to be done by 12 o'clock today to play this weekend. So Ugarte's first performance will be after the international break. And despite his concerns, he's still confident of a 3-1 United win. We'll get into the predictions that are on when we come to preview the game.
If you play Casemiro, I think it's no.
A team that were frustrated on the first weekend, they certainly weren't frustrated on Saturday when they put 4 past a struggling Everton team.
I told you it was going to happen last time it was on.
You were pretty confident of a big Spurs win, and it paid dividends because Spurs really put Everton to the sword. And I don't think they got out of first gear, to be totally honest. So I don't know what that says about Everton, but it was very easy for Spurs. I don't think they'll have an easier game all season, because
Everton have also signed Mangala from Leon there. I'm seeing.
Yeah, I think that will be it. That's probably one of their better signings in the window on a loan deal. But Everton really struggling, and they needed to do some sort of business there. It looks like Mangala's coming in. Mopai, for all his talks going back to France, Madison had the last laugh, sent off with a 4-0 defeat.
Did you see that thing about the Everton fans abusing him, but calling him a...
I think look, there's two sides to this. I think Danny Murphy says, look, as players, you have to put up with it. You're getting paid big money, and there's a lot of people's emotions on the line. But Mopai had a point, and they say that you shouldn't be getting,
but if you walk into your job and somebody's calling you whatever, you're not going to take it.
I think the problem is that it came from Mopai. He's struggled ever since he's been poor for Everton. I think if it came from Seamus Coleman,
did you see the thing? Did you see the thing Mopai put up on social media when he left? He put up like a clip of something going, "I'm free."
Well, that's it. He's just a wind up, isn't he?
Aye.
I think he won a poll for football's biggest wind up, and it's not something you should be proud of, especially when you don't have the pedigree. But getting back to the game one, Spurs, they had to put the Leicester game right, and they did with 4-0 one.
But
And it
someone
was
put
very
it right, didn't we, Beckle? That was
well. That's up. Basuma had his best performance for a long time in a Spurs shirt, so maybe that'll be the kick in the backside that he needed.
what was
Son
Ian what was Ian Hayden in that blood? That's what I want to know.
and Son looked pretty sharp, as we've seen.
Yep.
Mickey Van de Ven was doing Mickey Van de Ven things. Madison looks back to his best. So Spurs will not be getting too carried away because they've got a big test coming at the weekend. But it's been a decent start to the season if you look at the two performances.
Aye, you have to make sure you don't lose it early. Like that's I know you should have beat Leicester and he's comfortably dispatched Everton, but for Spurs, I think it's a decent start. Like you haven't lost, and as you say, the big test now is going to come in the next two games against Newcastle and as an Arsenal. In.
Yeah, Newcastle, and then Arsenal after the international break, which is going to be huge.
Doing a map.
Well, that's it. Man City were another team that scored 4 goals on Saturday, putting 4 past Ipswich, and Ipswich had a brief moment of jubilation, but it was quickly soured. I think they were 3 that scored. They conceded 3 goals within 10 minutes, and it was pretty confident today. And Erling Haaland was everybody's triple captain, and he duly delivered with his hat trick against Ipswich.
What more can you say? Everyone expected Ipswich to get a battering. No, they didn't get a battering. Like they scored, fair play to them. But as I said after the Liverpool game, these are the game or them are the games that Ipswich will expect to lose. It's the games coming up now at the weekend. I think they'll Fulham, is it?
Yeah, Fulham at home.
That I think they'll expect to get more of a chance in them games. So I don't think Ipswich will be too worried about the first 2 games because of who they were up against.
Yeah, just another bit of piece of news for you. I'm hearing that Chelsea are very confident they're going to get a deal done for Osimhen by 11 o'clock tonight. So that would probably be the biggest move of the summer. I mean, Chelsea need a striker. I'm not sure how they're going to fix it on the books, but Osimhen could be on his way to Stamford Bridge in a deal worth around £65 million. Owen, I mean, I know we spoke about it and we're going to speak about it more, but I mean, Chelsea, I mean, for all the criticism around them, the owners they're prepared to spend endless amounts of cash on the club.
They are, right, but it's going to come back and bite them. It will eventually. Like I'm telling you, it'll come. They'll get hit with some sort of punishment eventually.
Arsenal and Villa was one of the big games last weekend, and Villa will be absolutely fuming that they didn't at least come away with something. They had the better chances in the game. Ollie Watkins had 2 real bad misses, and Arsenal dug their heels in and got a result. What did you make of this game? Because I thought it was I really enjoyed this game.
As I said to you, like I said to you the last time I was on, I didn't think it would be end to end mad at the start. It was more of a tactical battle in the first half, and then in the second half, then it sort of kicked in. But that Ollie Watkins miss, especially the first one, because the second one was a decent save by the keeper. Yes, it was straight at him, but he still had to get off the ground and claw it away. But
I disagree. I think the second one was worse because he had the goal gaping in front of him. All he had to do was put it in the corner. Anywhere else in the net, the keeper can't react that fast. Yes, it was a good save, but I mean, it was straight at him as well.
I suppose, but for a player of Ollie Watkins' caliber, you would expect him to take at least one of them chances. But it just shows when you're not at your best, you have to win them type of games. And as we've seen last season, Arsenal didn't beat Villa, so they've got points off Villa early on at this stage. So, but similar to Spurs, I think Arsenal's big tests will come now. Brighton tomorrow will be a big game for them, I think. And then obviously after the international break, they have Spurs and Man City. So after these next
two, they'll have a big Champions League game on there too. We'll see the fixtures tomorrow, so that'll be a tricky period.
I hope we're playing Real. I hope we're playing Real Madrid last. I told you Bellingham would come to Liverpool.
Now, one particular incident that I know you were filming me last week was Bournemouth disallowed goal against Newcastle. Now, as you know, a referee myself, so I'm the first to kind of stick my hand up and support the referees, but this was a really, really poor decision by
And
VAR.
the
I
fact,
don't think he can blame the referee because he wouldn't have seen it from where he
yeah,
was. So this was all down to the VAR, and what we heard was they weren't going to re-referee the game. I think if I don't know why he felt that it was a handball, but if he felt it was, he really should have sent the referee to the screen to have a look at it
did it not
because
have
I
him?
think
It had him like here, like
well
sort
they
of
keep saying
there.
clear and obvious, and even if it did, no, I don't think it did, but even if it did, there's no concrete evidence. They say that hits his arm. It looks to me more off the sleeve.
That's what I
And
mean.
we're
Like
here
here,
that anything above the sleeve is legal. So Bournemouth can feel really hard done by in this situation.
for me, that was probably the worst decision so far this season.
I
Well,
think we'll go a long way. I think we'll go a long way to have a worse one. Now, I know the Liverpool offside goal last year was the worst. I think it's
no,
unlikely we'll have
I'm on
another
about
situation like
I'm on
that.
about
But
this. I'm on about this season in general.
no, that's what I'm saying. But I think this one at the weekend, this will take some bit in this season. I
No,
don't think
no,
we'll have. I know the Liverpool one last year was a bit of an anomaly. I don't think we'll have that kind of mess again
no.
where they got it wrong. You know, I think this could be potentially the worst already. I don't see anything being as bad as this all season.
No, well, you don't know with these referees, but
But
or
I
this
think 90,
VR.
I think 99% of people thought this was the wrong. It was a very clear. I'm surprised there was no
Also,
apology after.
in the same in this game, I thought Joe Linton should have been sent off. He uh,
I think it could have been.
he was doing like WWE moves. He clotheslined the keeper.
Yeah, there's no
It
need to
was
do it. Chelsea hit Wolves for 6. I mean, I watched the Bournemouth game, but I heard this game was pretty entertaining. Even in the first half,
yeah.
it was 2-2, and I heard Wolves probably should have been in front, and Chelsea come out in the second half, and a player that's not really got going at Chelsea bangs a hat-trick in Madueke, and he
Well,
gets himself onto the England squad because of it. So, a great day for Madueke, and a much relieved Maresca after what happened against Man City and the noise around the club. They get 6 goals. It was a really good day for them, but how much we can read into that, I don't know, because Wolves definitely have problems. I think Yarnin's the first to put his hand up and say they've big problems at the moment.
yep, and I'm going to credit myself here. I've said from the start, Wolves are one of mine to go down, and they're not giving me any evidence. They suggest that they won't, but they've signed. Funnily enough, they signed your man Andre, the Liverpool were heavily linked with him last year. They signed him, and they've signed Sam Johnson from Palace. But in terms of this game, I watched the first half of this. I watched the first half, so I watched it the half time. It was 2-2, and then I went for a sure, came back and it was 6-2. So, but I seen the highlights and I thought, to be fair, I thought Wolves were in the game until half time, and they could
Mm.
have had a few extra goals themselves. And
Just a just an update on that story that we says about there at the start of the show. It was kind of just breaking as we come on. Newcastle in talks now with Nottingham Forest over a deal for Anthony Elanga. A deal would be in the region of over 35 million. So what we says there, probably on the 40 million mark. Newcastle have money to spend following the collapse of their 70 million move for Mark Gahey. Eddie Howe is a big fan and attempted to bring him to Newcastle at the end of last season. There's a lot of work they do. Forest have no desire to sell and would be looking for somewhere in the region of 50 million to sell. So, I mean, they got 50 million last year or close to it, about 47.5 for Brennan Johnson. So I think that proves that if Newcastle are prepared to go that far, they'll probably sell because we know what Forest are like. They'll not turn
15.
down the money. But this would be really left field, wouldn't it? The Elanga deal. If this was to come out, we never heard anything about it. And as of 5 o'clock now, there's possibility this could happen. And I suppose this shows you how things can change on deadline day very quickly.
50 million for Neil Angle, but that's poor. That's poor.
I think they only signed him last year for
They did.
I think like 10 million or something. So I mean, it would be
I maybe hello. Oh, Southampton fan.
next Southampton fan that's tuning in, and of course Southampton have brought Aaron Ramsdale to the club today. So
They're also,
a good day for Southampton. I think
they're
Ramsdale will
also
definitely save them points this season. I think you need a good goalkeeper when you're on the bottom, and Ramsdale's a brilliant shot stopper. I think that's a really, really good deal for Southampton, and I think as well under the terms they got him for, 18 million pound. The 7 million add-ons will only be if they stay up. So I mean, if Southampton stay up, they'll happily pay the 7 million on top.
yeah.
So yeah, he's agreeing. Ramsdale is a great signing. Much needed. Great to have you with us, Nick. So
Yep.
we hope to tune in the rest of the show. Sorry when I interrupted you here.
No, I was just saying, like I thought Chelsea were brilliant in the second half from the highlights that I saw, and Wolves definitely have problems. So it'll be interesting. Can they kick their season off today or sorry tomorrow or Sunday? I don't know. I actually don't know who Wolves are playing this week. Uh, I know Chelsea are playing Crystal Palace, but I'm not sure who Wolves have.
Yeah. Breaking news coming out of Liverpool. Stefan Bajcetic has officially joined Salzburg on loan.
Yeah,
So that
expected
was a
that.
deal we expected to happen. Are you surprised he's not been given more of an opportunity to come onto the team
No,
this year?
no, because he's been out for a year and a half with injury, so I think he needed to go and get minutes.
Of course, Barcelona were looking at him as well, so he's definitely
I'm
highly
just
thought of.
I'm more surprised that we haven't went down and brought somebody in
Mm,
that
um,
position.
Liverpool too strong for Brentford. That was the final game of last weekend. Liverpool. It was a comfortable victory. We'll speak about Chiesa in a wee second, but just on the game, I was actually in a pub watching this, and a lot of Liverpool fans, whilst they were happy with the result, and I know it's very early on, but they're already saying that this style of play isn't anywhere near as fun and enjoyable to watch. So, I mean, where do you stand on it? I mean, I think it was always going to be difficult to replicate that Jurgen Klopp sort of electric football. I know the first goal was kind of like a Jurgen Klopp goal, but I think the general play, you could even see when Brentford were counter-attacking that Liverpool had plenty of numbers back, whereas, the back four were kind of back in position really quickly, whereas we seen last year when they were being counter-attacked, it was kind of one or two on their own at the back, and all of a sudden they were in trouble. Deep Where do you stand on the style of play? Are you enjoying it as much? And maybe that this style of play might be easier for Liverpool to compete because you're always in games. The Liverpool were playing these Real Madrids and they were going gung ho and getting beat 5-2, for example, in certain games.
Aye, and we're going to, and we have Real Madrid coming up as well, so that'll be interesting. But I like, I don't know why we're complaining. We've won our first two games. It was never going to be the gung ho football of Klopp under Slot. We're more controlled in possession, as you say. When we lose the ball, we get back in our positions quick. We're more compact. Yes, it's not the electric style of play that we're used to, but if it's getting us results like the first two games, 2-0 wins, two clean sheets, um, I would rather win games 2-0, 3-0 than have a 3-2 because then you're not panicking. Like obviously, we Spurs yourself. Like there can be there can be basketball games at times, and I think we're gonna be a lot more controlled, as Darren
Paul
says again.
Merson says today, Liverpool are very stiff. Do you see that? Do you think that's harsh? Because, they did create plenty of chances against Brentford.
Paul Merson's a twat. But that's my answer on that one. But no, I don't really. I said to you, like I don't really care about the style of play if it's getting Liverpool results, and that's all I'm happy about.
Yeah, just some more news on the Sancho situation. Chelsea have presented two bids for Jadon Sancho. One proposal is a loan with a buy option clause. The other one with an obligation to buy, of course, on different terms. Chelsea have reached total agreement with Jadon Sancho on personal terms, and all is now up to Man United. So it would seem that Chelsea and Sancho have shaked hands on this. It really
He's a
is down to
Chelsea.
United now
He's
to
a
accept
Chelsea
one of
fan,
these
is he not?
proposals. Well, I think so. So it's looking more likely than unlikely now that Sancho is going to be at Chelsea. I mean,
See, this is Chelsea, right? They go and sign a striker, which they need, and then they go and sign a winger, which they don't need. I don't know what they're doing.
I think
I
Nick a great
exactly.
point. I mean, they've just signed João Felix. They've signed Pedro Neto. You've got Madueke. You've got Palmer. You've got Nkunku. You've got Chukwuemeka can play in there. Mudrick. I mean, they've so many of them number 10s attacking
Neto.
midfielders. I don't know where they're fitting Sancho in. And
No.
I think the environment that Chelsea's in, and they've already sidelined Sterling. He's an hour player to play in there, but the environment that Chelsea is at the moment, Sancho's caused problems at Man City. He's caused problems with England camp. He's
And
caused
Dortmund.
problems at Man United. I think probably the only place he hasn't really caused that many problems is Dortmund. But bringing them into this kind of unsteady environment, I think it could be a recipe for disaster. But Sancho probably looks at it. Chelsea, yeah, big move, big money they'll pay me, and I'm in London, and I can get away from United and Ten Hag because it hasn't worked out. So,
and
probably convenient for him, but
the fact that
I
he's a
just can't
boy,
understand this at all.
nah, but probably the fact that he's a boyhood Chelsea fan as well probably helps. But
yeah, I think next
I agree.
Maresca's got the toughest job in world football.
It's mad. Like.
Unfortunately, this part of the show will probably not be relevant to you, but yeah, you can probably give your opinion on some of these things. We're going to be looking at the European draws. Obviously, the Champions League draw took place yesterday. And the Europa League.
We got the toughest out of the English team.
I think so. And the Europa League and Conference League draw took place today. We'll, of course, keep you up with any updated transfer news that comes on this. Whilst we're on air, let's start with Liverpool because I do agree with you, and I think they possibly have the toughest fixtures compared to the other teams.
We'll still get out of it, I think.
Do you know what so much I think that's tough is the home fixtures. I think you'd nearly take going to Madrid away because you'd be second favourites. You want to try and win your home games, and you're looking at Madrid and Leverkusen in there as two real tough teams to play. AC Milan away is not going to be easy. Lille are a decent French team. Bologna is probably the banker at home. Girona are a bit of an unknown because we haven't been in this Champions League before. PSV, you fancy Liverpool. Leipzig, you probably fancy Liverpool, but there's probably 2 or 3 in there that would make Liverpool fans a wee bit nervous.
The only games I'm concerned about is the Real Leipzig Real Leverkusen. Maybe I'm overlooking, but I think we should sail through it easily. Apart from maybe Leverkusen and Madrid.
Yeah, I think the difficulty you might have is you want to try and finish as high as possible, don't you? To give yourself the best sort of position.
I don't know how it works. Like, is there a difference from finishing first? They say 8th.
If you finish first, you can't play the team that finishes second to the final.
Right. So does that mean
it goes into like a tennis seed format after the league phase? So, for example, the teams that finish in the top 4 can't meet the semi-finals.
So if we finish 4th, we can't play like Real Madrid again.
Well, depending on where they finish. If they already finish first, you can't play them. You will play them in the semis because 1 would play 4, 2 would play 3. If they were all 4 to get there.
We never seem to beat Real Madrid, so at least it's not a final this time. So
yeah, the worry for Liverpool is if they were to finish, say, 7th or 8th, they would have a really tough run.
I don't think we will. We should be in the top 4 that easy. If I was to predict it now, I would go Real Madrid, Liverpool, Leverkusen, and Milan probably as the top 4.
Well, the top 4 teams overall?
No, in our group.
No, but it's not a group thing. It's a league phase. So then, see Liverpool's fixtures. They'll be Real Madrid's fixtures are different than Liverpool's. Yes, they're playing Liverpool.
I know that
they have different fixtures. So it's not necessarily a group with these 8.
All right, I get you.
It's points based on the league phase. If you know what I mean. So
I get you.
When you factor in, say, Man City's fixtures, you expect them to probably win every one. So if Liverpool have a few tough ones on there, if they really only won maybe 5 of these games, they'd probably be struggling to make a top 4. They'd probably have to win 6 to get near that top 4 spot.
I'd say, to be honest, as long as we qualify, I don't care where we finish because you're going to have to play
these teams. Finish in the first 8, you don't have to play the playoff.
As long as we qualify, because we're going to have to play a Real Madrid and a Man City again if we do want to win it.
Yeah. Just quickly on Liverpool. How many points do you think you get out of them 8 games?
It's tough. I think we'll get beat by Madrid if I'm being honest. So I'll say we'll beat Leverkusen, we'll beat Milan. I think we'll win all of them apart from Madrid.
7 ones.
All right.
I think Liverpool will take that now.
Hey, Xabi Alonso as well coming back to Anfield.
I'm not sure how you can get 30 points because there's only 24 on offer.
I think your maths is about off here, Darren.
Let's look at Arsenal. Arsenal have PSG, Inter Milan, Shakhtar, Atalanta, Zagreb, Sporting, Monaco, and Girona. And I have to say, you look at them last 4, and that is a dream draw. I don't think they'll have any problems with Zagreb, Lisbon, Monaco, or Girona. I think Liverpool's a sister. You know they're well known, but I think Liverpool will be too strong for them. It's the
What's
first
your
sort of Donetsk as well. It's probably the PSG and the two Italian teams that'll give Arsenal the most trouble.
Nah, I wouldn't even worry about PSG to be honest, because they play in a league that they won every week, and when they come up against decent opposition, they always come unstuck, and they don't have Mbappe or Neymar or Messi. They get them out of it this year. So I think PSG, they wouldn't be one of my.
Arsenal to do pretty well, wouldn't you?
I would expect Arsenal to get the full 24 points on offer.
Wouldn't be far away. I wouldn't have thought.
Man
City have the same. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, what's your thoughts on? Do you like this new Champions League format?
I like the draw because it's just great to know the teams right away in it.
My friend said to me, I wonder how much Ronaldo was getting paid for pressing that button.
I wasn't doing it for the crack, I tell you that. Man City and Arsenal had the exact same two teams from part one, just the reversed, and that PSG and Inter Milan are swapped around home and away. So, and if you look at Club Brugge, Man City battered them in the past. Juventus are not the team they were. Feyenoord have lost slot. Sporting Lisbon, again, I'm not convinced we'll give Man City too many problems. Sparta Prague and Slovan Bratislava. I mean, I know it's just about Arsenal there, but I'd be shocked if Man City didn't get maximum points.
Again, Man City always getting easy.
Or somewhere in the region of maybe 32. Or sorry, it's not 32, 22. If they get 22 to 24, I think that's, even as good as.
Usual Man City getting easy enough draws in the Champions League, so you would expect them. They won all them games at least.
Yeah. The one thing that will be interesting is when the groups happened, it was always like you won your first 3 or 4 and you were through, and then teams kind of rested players. That's probably not going to be the case this time because it is incentivized that you want to try and finish as high as possible. So even if you won your first 5 games, you'll want to make sure you're finishing near the top of the table to get that easier route, or the so-called easier route to the final. So
they finished top. They finished top. Do you have to win all your games?
Well, not unless anybody. Well, if nobody wins all their games, then no. It depends on how teams do. So we'll not know until it kicks off. Really,
it'll be interesting tomorrow. It'll be interesting.
There's mathematicians out there that believe if you already won 4 games, you would be guaranteed to finish in the top 24. So you'd be guaranteed a playoff. That's kind of how it's been averaged out. But again, we're on unknown territory. We don't know.
I'm looking forward to tomorrow to see how it goes up. I see if I had my dream scenario, I would want Real at home first, just to get that out of the way.
Yeah, and they drew last night as well, so they're not really all firing at the moment. Aston Villa, they have Bayern Munich, Leipzig, Juventus, Club Brugge, Celtic, Young Boys, Bologna, and Monaco. Obviously, the ones that jump out there are Bayern Munich, Juventus, and Celtic not so much in the difficulty, but the Celtic game. But they play Celtic at home, so I think that'll be
your boys
some strong favourites.
Your boys are going to the other side.
Yeah, we'll speak about that in a wee minute. But I mean, that's a big draw for Villa bringing Bayern Munich to Villa Park.
Yeah, it's good for Villa. Like you love to see. Obviously, you don't because you wanted to be in this position. But like in terms of now, it's always good to see a club like Villa, who are a big club, who have won the Champions League in the past, be back in it.
I think they've done quite well here because the way the fixtures have worked out, all their harder games are at home, which gives them an opportunity. You think about Bayern Munich away would be very tough. Juventus away would be tough. Celtic away would be tough because they know the atmosphere. They've got them 3 at home. Leipzig probably their toughest away trip, and Liverpool and Villa will be capable of going there and getting some.
So I don't know. It's hard to say many points, but I would expect Villa to go through as well.
Celtic, of course, have Aston Villa. They've got Leipzig, Dortmund, Club Brugge, Atalanta, Young Boys, Dynamo Zagreb, and Slovan Bratislava. And considering the opposition that Celtic have had in recent Champions League seasons, I think they've had a really, really good result here. There's no big hitter on there. There's no English team apart from they've avoided the other big 3 in the English league. They've avoided the big 2 in Spain. They've avoided the big one in Germany, the big one in France. They're playing Leipzig and Dortmund, who are not classified as anywhere near the top two. I know Dortmund got the Champions League final last year, but them teams didn't finish in the top two in Germany last year in the league.
Yep.
Atalanta, of course, the Europa League winners will be difficult, but I think Celtic have an opportunity to get themselves into that sort of 90-24 spot.
Oh no, they definitely do. It's like as you say, there's no real big hitters on there. Villa are sort of an unknown because of this is their first time in the Champions League in years. I was kind of hoping that Liverpool would get Celtic, just because of that connection though, with the two clubs. That would have been interesting. Hey, there's a lot of Liverpool and Celtic fans.
No, it's a lot of Irish people that made that connection, lad. There's no connection, trust me.
No.
Walk alone's a connection. I don't know. Maybe Liverpool fans will tell me wrong, but I do think that's more of a I'm Irish, so I support Celtic too. I don't know.
No, I don't support Celtic. Like I would have just loved to see the.
Where was the connection when Steven Gerrard joined Rangers? Couldn't have a strong connection from.
For him, but for Irish Liverpool fans, it's a big connection.
Well, you've rephrased that. Irish Liverpool fans, fair enough. Moving on to the Europa League one, Man United are one of two English teams. They play Rangers. Now, United have Rangers at home, Porto away, PAOK, who dumped out Shamrock Rovers, Fenerbahce, Jose Mourinho's team, Bodo Glimt, a very, very technical Norwegian team, I believe, who've caused problems for teams before in the past, Victoria Pilsen, FC20, and Steaua Bucharest. Now, looking at this, you can see the drop-off to the Champions League, which is incredible. Yeah. United's two pot one teams are Rangers and Porto. United should be comfortable here and getting themselves high up this table.
I would expect United to win all of them, to be honest. Like, there's actually Fenerbahce away could be tricky because going to Turkish grounds away is always mad. But I would expect United to go through comfortably. Unfortunately,
yeah. Spurs have similar. They play Rangers. They also have a trip to Turkey. They play Galatasaray. So Spurs have Roma at home, Rangers away, AZ Alkmaar at home, Ferencváros away, Qarabağ at home, Galatasaray away, Elfsborg at home, and Hoffenheim away. So Spurs Budapest, so Hungarian. So Spurs actually have some nice trips on paper. Or in the Galatasaray, they go to Scotland, Amsterdam, Sweden. They go to Glasgow or Edinburgh. The game could be at Hampden. That's not confirmed yet. They go to Ferencváros in Budapest, and they go to Hoffenheim in Germany. Apart from the one to Turkey, travel time there for the players isn't too bad. The home games are pretty comfortable, you'd imagine. Or than Roma, maybe the trickiest one, but Alkmaar, Qarabağ, and Elfsborg, I think, are the lowest ranked team in the competition. So I think Spurs will be looking at somewhere in the region of 6, 7, at least 6, possibly 7, or maybe even a full sweep there of getting 8 wins.
I think they will again. Like as you said, the drop off from the Champions League to the Europa League is astounding, isn't it?
Yeah, and of course there's no drop downs. So the 36 teams that are in this draw, the winner comes from that.
I prefer that. Like if Liverpool get dumped out, I don't want to win the Europa League. I'd be like, just tough shit.
Yeah. Rangers. They have Spurs and United, as we talked about. Big draws for Rangers that getting two English teams. They'll host Spurs and they'll take a big crowd. The Manchester, no doubt about that. Of course, they took a big crowd to Manchester. I think when they lost the Europa League final, they Sevilla all those years ago, and they actually it didn't turn out too well. But of course, they were on their best behaviour when they play Frankfurt in the most recent final they were on.
They also will be supporting that day, Rangers and United. I don't know who will be supporting that day.
They also have Lyon, Olympiacos, Union Saint-Gilles, who Liverpool fans will be. Remember, Malmo, Steaua Bucharest, and Nice. Again, Ireland, Spurs, and Man United. Maybe Lyon, but they're not the Lyon of old. Rangers will think they can get plenty of points.
They can. Olympiacos away will be tough as well because they actually won the Conference League last year, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. You're right. They're the Europa League conference winners. Speaking of the Europa League, the Conference League, Shamrock Rovers, Chelsea, and Larne from Northern Ireland also feature for the first ever from Northern Ireland. They get through the group stage, or as now known as the league phase, and a big result from last night. And the reward for Larne as they play Shamrock Rovers. They probably would have wanted Chelsea, but Shamrock Rovers get Chelsea. Larne, I believe. played Ghent as their highest ranked team in the competition.
Yeah.
So great experiences for Shamrock Rovers and Larne here in this Conference League. And I suppose, whilst it's heavily criticised, and I have to say, the drop off from the Europa League to this is just as incredible as the
Yeah.
drop off from the Champions League to the Europa League. It's great achievement for these teams. They have their big days now in Europe.
Oh, look, you know what? Like, as much as I don't like Rovers, like it's great to see, but isn't it? For a team from Ireland and Larne as well, like it's great to see. Like if I was
Well,
there,
it's not just the glory of playing, the bigger teams, but
the money as
also
well.
the financial reward, 3.2 million for qualifying. So
Like
go ahead, go ahead, sorry.
if I was Derry coming up against Chelsea, we'd be buzzing. Like,
Oh, of course, we would be in hysterics. So we would
imagine Chelsea come to the Brandywell. That'd be mental.
yeah. Moving on to this weekend. Of course, there's a huge Super Sunday on offer. I don't want any predictions yet because we are going to go through the games in a wee bit more
Any
detail.
more
But
any more news?
transfer news with Bernie Ivan Toney has passed his medical ahead of making a 40 million move to Al Hilal in Saudi Arabia. So that deal looks like it'll be done. Of course, the Saudi Arabia window's open on Monday, so there's no real rush to make this happen today. But I'm sure Brentford would probably prefer to get it tied up as soon as possible. Maxwell Corney is having a medical at Southampton ahead of a loan move to West Ham.
Yep,
And we're seeing more and more of these loan moves. We've seen James Ward-Prowse today go to Nottingham Forest. Shows you the difficulty one that clubs have with this PSR, that we're seeing more and more season-long loans happening.
I'm surprised. I don't know. I don't know if the Southampton fan watching. I'm surprised that they didn't go back on for Ward-Prowse.
Yeah, I've thought that as well. Maybe Nick Nack can give us a bit more information on maybe why Southampton didn't explore a deal for Ward-Prowse, or maybe they did and he just decided to go to Nottingham Forest. I'm also hearing in the last few minutes Newcastle's approach for Elanga has been turned down by Forest. So again, it remains to be seen where Newcastle come back on and offer Forest more money than they can refuse from Elanga. We know this time last year on deadline day, Spurs were also told Brennan Johnson wasn't for sale, but Spurs put up so much money that Forest couldn't turn down. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with Anthony Elanga between now and the next 5 hours.
I think, well, knowing Forest, if, as you said there, if they get to the price that Forest are happy with, I would say he'll be a Newcastle player. But
Yeah, Nick Nack's just saying that I think the fans would have been happy to have him back, but don't think it was ever on the cards. I'm not sure why. Sorry, Owen, go ahead.
no, I'm just saying that if Newcastle stump up the cash, I would say he'll be a Newcastle player. But I was expecting deadline day to be quiet when we were on here, but it seems to be picking up a bit.
Yeah, we are going to preview all 10 games. So next day west, because we want to get your thoughts on Southampton. Of course, they take on Brentford at 3 o'clock on Saturday. And I believe there was a deal done between those two clubs in the last 24 hours. A left back, possibly. He might have more information on it.
He's a young player, I think.
Yeah, and it's kind of been a staggered start to the season, of course, but we have finally got our first big juicy Super Sunday, and it comes just before the international break. So it's at a time where fans will have to enjoy Sunday, but when Sunday's over, it'll be a long couple of weeks. But of course, the Old Firm kicks it off at 12:30. Celtic against Rangers, then it's Newcastle against Spurs at 1:30. I'm not sure why these times weren't done a wee bit better, because the second half of the Old Firm's going to clash with Newcastle and Spurs. But then you have Man United and Liverpool at 4 o'clock. You looking forward to Super Sunday one?
Aye, Bovenford. I'll keep an eye. Well, obviously, I'll keep an eye. Obviously, I'll be watching the Liverpool United one, because that's. But I'm looking for, as a neutral. I'm really looking forward to the Newcastle Spurs game, because going by the last few games there, there'll be plenty of goals.
Going by the last few games, Spurs can only get better. I think I need Newcastle visits.
It can't be any worse, but I'll probably keep an eye on Celtic and Rangers too. Like I'm not the biggest fan of Scottish football, but when they're playing, I always keep an eye.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go on Sunday, but I should be back in the house for 1:30 for the kickoff of the Newcastle and Spurs game. But let's get on to the rest of the weekend's games. We'll go in order. Normal. No, I'm coaching. Brentford is a massive game for us. Need to get some points on the board. Brentford and Southampton's actually our second game. We're just going to do the early game before it. Arsenal and Brighton is the 12:30 kickoff. And like last weekend, there was a lot of anticipation around the Brighton Man United game. I think this is another good game to start the weekend. Arsenal were let off the hook by Villa. Brighton have been more ruthless than they've been ruthless in these games against Everton and United. They've taken the chances that's come their way. So if Brighton are at it, Arsenal will have to be at it. Arsenal are very strong at home though, and they'll be the favourites. But a really interesting game. They start off the weekend though.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to it. But you say Brighton are more ruthless, but they were a bit dodgy too at the back, playing out against United.
Yeah,
United
they'll
at
have to
times,
brush up on that.
and United had their chances. I remember Alanga. Sorry, it's because we were talking about Diallo. Diallo had a chance, if you remember, in the first half. Could have finished it. Rashford had a chance that was offside. So if Brighton are dodgy at the back and mess up, Arsenal will be more clinical. But I'm definitely looking forward to watching this one. They kick off the weekend of football.
Yeah.
But I would say for my prediction for this one, I'm going to go 2-1 Arsenal.
2-1 Arsenal. And we'll come back to this game, but just more news on Ante Alanga. I'm hearing that the bid that Newcastle have rejected was for 35 million. Forest do not want to sell, and I'm told it would take a silly offer for the club to be interested in leaving an Alanga-sized hole in the squad this late in the window. They really feel there's limited time. Of course, they find a replacement in the next 5 hours. But
who wrote that?
35 million is a pretty high offer. If they were to put an R15 in front of that, I think Forest would be forced into a sale because I don't think anyone would think 50 million for Alanga's value for money. So if Newcastle up that offer, and I think with 5 hours to go, if they're putting in an offer for 35 million, I think they believe they're pretty desperate and they need something, and they plug a hole in the gap, as you says. Maybe there's something happening with Almiron. Maybe they're looking to shift him out. But I don't think we've heard the end of this one. I think Alanga could be a story that runs for the next couple of hours at least.
It's looking likely, but if Newcastle pay 50 million for Alanga, they have more money than sense.
Yeah, hearing that Newcastle are prepared to go back on, so definitely ain't the end of the saga. That may be there's always a story on deadline day, it comes out of nowhere.
Are we going to have another? Are we going to have another Peter Odemwingie situation where Alanga's sitting outside Newcastle?
You're going 2-1 Arsenal then?
Aye, 2-1.
So of course, if you're watching, you can always stick your predictions and the chat them. We'll put them on screen. Darren's going 2-0. Owen said 2-1. I'm going to go the same as Owen. I think Arsenal will just do enough. 2-1 Arsenal. Nick, we'll read your thoughts on Southampton because they're our next game. Brentford are taking on Southampton. Forest can't replace Alanga yet, but money. They didn't really replace Brennan Johnson last year, did they? So
unless they offer Almiron as part of the deal.
Yeah, I remember the Brennan Johnson deal was confirmed at Bayern on 11 last year, so it went right to the wire. So Forest do have previous to selling a big name player for big money, so be interested to see what happens. But Southampton had a really positive start against Newcastle. They played against 10 men. They couldn't quite get the goal. And they were punished. But
I don't think
Forest were probably deserved winners last week, and that was more of a concerning result for Southampton. I don't know what you think, Nick. Sorry, I won't go ahead.
I don't think Ramsdale's registered in time, is he?
No, I don't think so.
I never predicted
he would be happy with a draw. Ramsdale should be playing. Was he signed before 12 o'clock? Maybe if he was signed before 12 o'clock.
I don't know if he was or not.
But that will be a boost. Brentford, as we know, are quite a strong team at home. They beat Palace in the opening weekend, but were outdone by Liverpool last week. But Brentford, we know, is home games is what makes them get their points. And they'll look at this as if they were to beat Southampton 6 points out of 9. They'd have ruled off Liverpool game anyway. Anything there would have been a bonus. And if they can pick up 2 wins in their first 3 games at home, it would be a really positive start. I think Southampton just need to get that first point in the board, though. Nick's probably getting nervous, thinking, Forest at home would have been one of the better games to start with at home. And to be honest, Forest were a better team. I was expecting Southampton. We predicted Southampton they won last week because we watched them against Newcastle and thought if they play it as well as that again, they're bound to score.
And Nick, I'm sorry, he's not gonna like my prediction, but I think I fancy Brentford for this one. I'm sorry. I just think Brentford are strong at home, and even though they don't have Tony anymore, they still have Mbuemo, they still have Wassa, they have Sharda, they have Fabio Carvalho. I just think they have a bit too much quality for Southampton. I am sad to say, but I'm gonna go 2-0 Brentford. Do
Yeah.
you still are Brentford still one of yours to go down, or have you changed?
No, well, I think if they won an hour game, I might have to change it. But they were kind of the team that I thought could suffer because of Tony. I did say to you for a number of weeks that Tony would leave by the end of this
Uh,
window, and it's took all the way to deadline day, and he's going to Saudi Arabia. But I think Brentford will still have bumps on there. I think this will be one of the games that they don't get over the line. I fancy Southampton. I'm not just saying that because Nick here. I think Southampton will get a result. So I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw.
I,
I think Nick
I said
says he would certainly take that.
I said 2-0 Brentford.
I think he's right, though. I think Southampton probably will have more possession, but
They do.
Brentford will be happy to hit them in the break.
Yep.
I think if Southampton can get the first goal, they have every chance of getting something out of the game. I think it's one of them ones if Brentford get a goal. It's hard to see Southampton getting back in there because Brentford are quite strong at the back.
And Southampton for me don't have a great goal scorer. I know Armstrong was great in the Championship, but he's played in the Premier League before and he's not really shown it. So I don't know what Nick thinks, but for me, I think Southampton are lacking in the attacking areas.
Yeah. Everton take on Bournemouth at 3 o'clock as well. This is a huge game for Everton because it's been all doom and gloom around the club. 7 goals shipped in the first 2 games and nothing on the score. Nothing. They haven't put the net once apart from a League Cup game against a really poor Doncaster team. So, and Bournemouth, I mean, I thought they were outstanding against Newcastle last week. And if they play anywhere near that level, it's going to be tough for Everton. But Everton at home, you have to expect some sort of response. And suppose Nick will be hoping for Everton to get beat because Southampton only need 3 teams to finish below home to stay up. And I think that's when you're in that kind of situation, you just want to see the teams that are favoured to go down just getting beat all the time.
And as much as you're saying you expect a reaction from Everton, I just, again, similar to Brentford and Southampton, I just think Bournemouth have too much quality for Everton. I think Everton do have quality, but I prefer Bournemouth's team, to be honest. And even though Everton are at home, I'm going to go 2-1 Bournemouth.
I think I think Bournemouth are definitely the better football team and they'll play a better brand of football. But Everton will make it difficult. I think it can't be any easier than it was for Spurs last week. I think Everton they have to respond.
Everton just get the ball, they pick for it and hit it long and hope. That's their style of play. Like they don't.
Onana, I mean, we did sort of question mark the Onana thing. They've all for the money, but it does leave a big hole in their midfield. He was their best midfielder, and they haven't.
To be fair to him, like I questioned it myself, but to be fair to him, he's been good for Villa in the first 2 games.
Knick-Knack's going for a Sean Dyche special, a 1-0 Everton. I'm going to go for a 1-1. I think Bournemouth will probably come away disappointed, but I think they were just a wee bit. They weren't clinical last week. They should have finished Newcastle off. And the big striker looked okay, Evan Nielsen, but I think he needs a bit more time to get up to speed.
To be fair,
the biggest threat's at Semenyo. He's talented.
He scored against us last year at Anfield, I think. I think to be fair, as I said, I just think Bournemouth will nick it. I think so. 2-1. I'm going for Bournemouth.
2-1 Bournemouth. I've gone 1-1.
I'm just seeing another bit of news for Liverpool. Nat Phillips has gone on loan to Derby. So
he loves a loan move in deadline day, doesn't he?
We can't seem to shift him, so he's away to Derby apparently.
Maybe a centre back's coming on for Liverpool. Maybe he'll be open. So
I think we're done.
Ipswich take on Fulham. Now Ipswich, their season really starts tomorrow because I think you pointed out Man City and Liverpool was a real baptism of fire for them. Anything they got in those 2 games was going to be a bonus. They didn't get anything. But as you say, they will only be on -5 goal difference after them 2 games. Is probably a result itself because they could easily have been on a lot more. On paper, you'd have fancied Liverpool. They had 4 or 5, and maybe Man City they had 6 at home. But they've come out of that with not too much damage. And Fulham, who are a very poor away team, they've been poor away from home. They've been an our team that relies on home form to prod them up the table. This is an opportunity for Ipswich. But like we said with Southampton against Forest, who are an our poor away team, but Forest flipped it and they beat Southampton. And it'll be interesting to see Southampton. I'm hoping they can bounce back on Saturday for them. So we only see them, losing a whole pile of games because they had that really poor season a couple of years. And they were relegated really before Christmas.
you sort of want the relegation battle to be exciting now. You want to, don't you? You don't want
Well,
teams
that's it,
getting.
Nick. I think I'll tell you that last season they were in the Premier League. They were relegated from early
No,
on because they were
they
really
will.
caught a draft. And I think Ipswich as well. It's important to get that sort of first point, even if it's a point on the board, just to
Yeah,
build a bit of confidence. And I think Ipswich will look at this as really an opportunity to try and get some points on the board.
I'm gonna go. I agree with you. Home's per away from home. I'm gonna go 1-1.
1-1. Fulham, of course, beat Leicester last week. 2-1. Smith Rowe getting his first goal for the club. But I think I'm agreeing with most of the people that's in the chat here. I think Fulham are going to be a team that'll get most of their points at home, and I think they would probably settle for a draw, to be honest. So I'll go for the same 1-1 draw. Leicester take on Aston Villa as well, 3:00. Now Leicester, of course, very fortunate to get that point against Spurs. They were beat last week by Fulham, as we just says there, and I think if Villa get the opportunities that Spurs did, and I think Villa can't be any more worse in front of goal than they were last week,
Yeah,
and Leicester will be up against it here.
no,
You
I
see
agree.
what happened with the first week. Spurs were never going to be that poor in front of goal again, and Everton were the victims. I wonder this week will Leicester be the victims, because surely if Ollie Watkins gets them opportunities again, there's only one outcome this time.
It's like it's sort of a ripple effect. Spurs were poor against Leicester in front of goal, so they took it out in Everton. So Villa will be hoping that the same happens. I'm gonna go 3-0 Villa. I think Villa will be too strong for Leicester here.
Yeah, I can't see anything other than a resounding Villa one. I'm going to go for a 3-1 Villa one as well, but very comfortable. Nottingham Forest take on Wolves in the final 3:00 game. Gary
Wolves,
O'Neill's made no secret of their struggles to get players in. They have been doing a wee bit of business today, but again,
they
on a
signed the boy
very much
from they
Ajax,
signed
was it?
the Ajax.
But it's been on quite a low scale for the likes of Kilman and Nero leaving. They haven't
There's
replaced
no
that quality, and I'm
there's no
beginning to
money.
think maybe Owen, you mightn't have been far away. Wolves are really up against it. But the one thing I would say is Gary was up against it at Bournemouth. After that 9-0 when Parker left at Anfield, Parker says they were relegated after 2 or 3 games, and O'Neill got them up the table, kept them safe.
He got
They were
sacked.
never, and then he was sacked then, and he went to Wolves last year. Come on, there was a lot of problems last year with money, and they had a really good season and surprised everybody. So maybe they've got the right man that can sort of navigate his way through a crisis. But the problem being, how long can you keep doing that? And Nottingham Forest, of course, they've had a decent start to the season, like 4 points from their opening 2 games, and beat, of course, Southampton last week. So, I think if Nottingham Forest can get a 1 here, they would butt your hand off for 7 points in the opening 3 games. Because realistically, you think 38 points is probably going to be enough. So if you've got 7 on the board, you're just under 30 away, and you've still got 35 games to go.
I think I put Forest between 15th and 16th in my table, so I don't think they'll be in that much danger. And you know what? I fancy them. They won here because they're at home and they're a very good home team. So I'm going to go 2-1 Nottingham Forest.
I think a lot of people are agreeing. Nick Nack's probably thinking that Wolves is a possible team they'll be scrapping with at the bottom. Did you say 3-1?
2-1.
2-1. I'm going to go for a 3-1 Nottingham Forest one. Moving into the 5:30 kickoff live on Sky, West Ham against Man City. West Ham disappointed everybody in that opening game against Aston Villa, but they responded last week with a really impressive one at Palace. And new players to come into the team. It was never going to happen overnight, but that was a big one for Lopetegui to get off the mark. And West Ham have got the type of team that could cause Man City problems in the counter-attack, so this is far from easy for Man City.
I'm looking forward to this too. This should be a fun game to watch. You know what? I'm going to put my neck on the line. I'm going to go 1-1.
A 1-1 draw.
Don't know what I'm feeling.
Man City have a really good record at West Ham, but they do tend to win there.
Where do they have a good record?
No.
Anfield.
I just think West Ham will have Man City will have too much fun, because they've seen West Ham against Villa, and Man City are a better team than Villa. Now, I think West Ham can't be as poor as that again, but I just think the form Haaland's in at the minute as well. I think Man City are going to be tough to stop. In this current run, they always tend to start well, have a dip, and then they come back in that second part of the season, don't they? So I'm going to go for a Man City 1. I'm going to go for a 2-0 Man City 1. I just think they'll have far too much for this West Ham team. We've got 4-0 Man City. That agrees with me. 2-0. Man City are on a hot streak according to everybody. Moving on to Sunday, and now we don't usually put on the Scottish games, but we always do this one as an old firm. Celtic against Rangers on Sunday at 12:30 at Celtic Park.
Is there any Rangers fans there?
I think this might be the first time now that the fans are back on their way and for these games. So that'll make the atmosphere a bit more better. But Celtic are strong favourites because Rangers have struggled. They beat Celtic in the last sort of season or so. And Celtic have started the season as well on fire. And Rangers have been a wee bit unconvincing. So Celtic being at home, I think they're the team to beat.
As you spoke about there, like I don't watch Scottish football unless it's this game. So my knowledge of Scottish football isn't great, but I'm gonna go with 3-2 Celtic 1.
That will be a cracking game to start Super Sunday. I think it's going to be very comfortable for Celtic. I just have an inkling Celtic's going to smash them. And I'm no Celtic fan, believe you me. I'm going to go for a 3-0. I'm going to go for a 3-0 Celtic 1. Chelsea against Crystal Palace. This is not on live. This was moved due to Chelsea's participation in the Europa Conference League, and they made damn hard work at getting past.
They lost.
I think they won on aggregate 4-3.
They lost 3-2 last night there.
Or 2-1. Anyway, they were good 3-1 goal against a team they really should have been wiping the floor with.
That's what I mean. You don't know what you're going to get with them.
No, but they had 6. You wouldn't believe it. They had 6 last week against Wolves, and then they beat Bishop. So again, what Chelsea will turn up. Palace have had a really difficult start to the season, and of course they're going to be encouraged by keeping Mark Gahey and Erebici Eze. But again, Palace going down this road of selling players. Elise's moved on. You'd imagine Gahey and Eze don't have much long left, and they've kept them this summer, but that's probably one that'll be revisited next summer. And very difficult to keep replacing these players. And Glasner, the way he wants to play, Elise would have been a massive part of that system.
Well, they've brought on Kamada on a free from Lazio. They've brought on Sarr from Marseille. Sorry, he used to play for Watford. And I think Nketiah will give them better firepower than Edward and the else did they have up there. They had AU, but he's away to Leicester. And Mateta, I think that was just a hot streak at the end of last season. I don't think that's sustainable.
Of course, if Chelsea complete deals for Jadon Sancho and Osman, they will not be available until after the international break. Now is the 12 o'clock registration for this weekend's games is finished. So
they're going to have to open about 17 different training grounds.
Well, and it'll be interesting to see what team he goes with because I'm not sure he knows his best team yet. I'm going to imagine Midwiki and Palmer will be on it after their performances, but a lot of places up for grabs in that Chelsea team. But
there always is.
I don't know. I find it difficult. I know this is last week. I think I top Wolves they won, but I just find it very difficult to predict Chelsea to win because you just do not know what you're going to get.
I'm going to go 2-1 Chelsea, though. I think they'll just make it.
I can't obviously predict them to lose every week. And of course, I'm not a fan of Chelsea. I don't like them very much, but I have to be honest. And I sort of went, I'll be honest, I thought Wolves would get a result last week. And if you had to watch the first half, you would have thought the same. But I think that was a bit of an anomaly last week. I don't think that's going to happen too often where they sort of won a second half 4-0. But I'm going to tip them to beat Palace. I'm going to go for a 2-1 Chelsea 1. Moving on, the 1:30 game that is live on Sunday is Newcastle against Spurs. Now,
where are they not at their normal times of
something to do with the police wanting Liverpool's game kicking off earlier with Man United. I don't know what 30 minutes makes difference, but they wanted it. So Newcastle take on Spurs at 1:30. Now Spurs' last 2 visits, as we pointed out, the Newcastle has been dreadful. 6-1, 4-0. So surely it can only get better. I have to say it. I've watched Newcastle in the 3 games they've played this season, the 2 games in the league and the 1 game in the cup, and I haven't been impressed. So I'm thinking if this goes to form, Spurs should probably win this game. But of course, it's a very different game at St James's Park.
Yeah,
but for Spurs, they sort of flip the St James's Park form gate and go there and really compete this time.
Maybe. I just think there's something wrong at Newcastle. There's something not right there at the minute. I think
Yeah, I think it's a good time to play him. Isak looks off color. Bruno's not been playing well. Gordon's been, he
Gordon
isn't.
doesn't. Gordon doesn't want to be there.
Barnes looks the most lively at the minute. Joelinton's looking a wee bit frustrated. They're obviously short at the back. We saw being suspended, of course, get red card against Southampton.
Botman's
And
injured. They
you
didn't
think
get
about
Gay.
the biggest, the one thing that Spurs is going to be missing is a striker because Solanke's not fit until after the international break, and Richarlison is going to be out for a few weeks. He's picked up yet another injury. So
I didn't notice it.
yeah, muscle injury. He's going to be out for a few weeks. And of
Who plays
course,
up front?
Sean played up front last week, but it's a different kind of game. So that'll be the one area that Spurs are probably missing.
Can Kulusevski play striker now?
Be interesting to see what he does. But having said that, I'm going to predict Spurs to get a result. So I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw.
Oh, so am I. That's what I was going to go for as well. 2-2.
2-2 draw. 1-0 Spurs. Darren's going for. Do you know what? My dad says the same. He thinks it'll be low scoring. He doesn't think he thinks it'll be a 1-0 or 2-1.
Spurs don't keep clean sheets that often, so Newcastle will score, I think.
Yeah. And the final game of Super Sunday is probably the one everyone's looking forward to. Is Man United against Liverpool. Of course, the two Dutchmen clash for the first time in the Premier League. Arne Slot taking on Ten Hag. Now, here's the stat for you. You heard this today. Slot would be the first manager to beat Man United in his first game as a Liverpool manager since the 70s, believe it or not. So Liverpool managers on their first game against United.
Was that Kenny Dalglish would it have been? No.
No, not in the 70s. It was on back before that. So
would have been
long before our time.
Yeah.
Maybe Darren might know. You're chatting. You're going back 50 years for the first Liverpool manager in his first game to beat United. So
it was also the first Liverpool manager, the first new Liverpool manager. They won his first game in the Premier League era. So there you go.
Yep. An interesting one. United, of course, will be looking to bounce back from the Brighton result. And although they did be beat 7-0, it's the only defeat Ten Hag's had in 5 games against Liverpool since he's been there. So his record, I know they haven't won all them games, but they've won. I think they've won 2. They won the cup game and they beat them at Old Trafford as well.
Last season.
And there's been a few 2 wins, 2 draws, and that 7-0 defeat in the 5 games. So Ten Hag's record has been pretty decent. If you wipe out that 7-0.
The only thing I would say about them games, apart from the one a few years ago, we should have wiped the floor with them in all them games.
Well, that's it. But of course, this new style of play, Liverpool may not be as they may not create as many, and they probably won't give away as many. So it's probably going to come down to how ruthless they are. I don't know. I think this is going to be low scoring. I'm not. I don't see this as a fireworks game. I know the 2 names are big, but I think it'll be very technical or very tactical.
My heart says a draw. My head says Shankly. I knew it was one of them. My heart says a draw. My head says a 1 for us. I'm gonna go with my head. I'm gonna say 2-1 Liverpool.
What was your heart saying?
1 each.
So the head's rolling the heart.
Hi.
So your heart tells you it's 1-1. You sure it's not the way around?
No, there's something on there saying it's going to be a draw, but my head's telling me it's going to be a 1. So
right, all right, nerves maybe getting. I get you now. Sorry, right. I'm going to go for what your heart's saying, 1-1. I think it'll be a draw.
I take it. To be honest, I wouldn't be disappointed.
Darren saying 2-0 Liverpool. Owen, deadline day, of course. We have spoken about it a lot during this show, but we've got 4 hours and 40 minutes to go. And it's fuzzy out there, let me tell you that. There's teams scrambling to get deals done. This Newcastle, the Elanga story, is probably the one at the minute that's come out of absolutely nowhere.
So it's here. It's with our advanced talks. They saying Armando Broja.
Yeah, from Chelsea. I think that deal was off, and now it could possibly be back on. Some good news for Nick Nack if he's still with us. Fabrizio Romano says that Maxwell Cornet, the Southampton unknown, is almost done. So with Southampton strengthening, bringing in Cornet unknown, who of course probably wasn't going to get much game time now that West Ham have brought on so many attackers. So Southampton are the beneficiaries of that. So suppose
Chiesa,
Premier League experience.
Chiesa, not in the just Chiesa hasn't been called up to the Italy squad, so that's good news for us. For me, anyway.
Not an easiest week to predict. Suppose we forgot to mention Chiesa. I suppose that deal was done yesterday. Owen, what is your thoughts on Chiesa sign for £10 million with a possibility of 2.5 million in add-ons if Liverpool won Premier League and Champions League? So it'll only be 10 million then.
He's not going to Spurs, but no, like as I said, we've talked about this at length on message, but at the start of the window, it wouldn't have been a name that I would have thought that we would have been on for. But there's been long links with him, and yes, he's had a bad injury record recently. But for ten million and for a backup option, you can't go wrong with that for me.
You say that right. I'm also hearing that Scott McTominay, the Napoli deal is done. Official announcement soon. So Scott McTominay moves to Napoli, and of course that will
Do
probably
you think
mean
do you think that's a good move for McTominay?
Um, I think
Do you
it's a
think
goal threat. I think United could have been doing him because I think he's in a goal threat from midfield, isn't he? And he's a good squad player, but of
Well,
course, if they can get Ugarte, they probably feel Ugarte's got more scope to be a top
who do
United
they
player.
play? Who do they play in the midfield then on Sunday? Like Menu, Fernandez, and Casemiro.
Yeah, I think Conte be a fan because of he's got legs, isn't he? And he's got that goal threat, and he's possibly a big, strong, good in both boxes. Owen Chiesa, as you says, not a lot of money spent on him. But I mean, if this was Chelsea or United going on for him, would you have a different opinion? Because he's just going to Liverpool, are you saying, oh, it's great?
Not for the price, though. If we had paid 40, 50 million for him, I would have had a different opinion. But for the price, I think it's a no brainer. And if he does well, happy days. If he doesn't, we're not losing. We're not losing too much.
Yeah, let's just go through some of the big stories again. This one, I'm just going to update it because there's a new bit of news on this one.
Do you think Osimhen will get done to Chelsea?
I'm going to ask you that in 1 second. I think that's how you spell him.
Just go weird.
Just going to go.
I'm not
Toney has passed his medical ahead of his move to Saudi Arabian club Al Hilal. I mean, we sort of spoke about this, but why do you think Ivan Toney hasn't had suitors from the Premier League? We know Chelsea's looking for a striker. Arsenal are short. Spurs went for Solanke over him. Liverpool, I don't think, are blessed with number 9s. Now, I know Jota can play there, but Nunez is the only really other one. For £40 million, a proven Premier League striker who's considered as, in the top 3 of England's best strikers. It's a toss-up between him and Watkins, isn't it, for second, behind Kane. Why do you think there hasn't been suitors for Toney?
It's hard to say, isn't it? Because, like as you say there, it's 40 million's nothing in this day and age, and he's guaranteed goals in the Premier League. But maybe it's because, as you say, it could be because of his attitude problems, or it could be because of the history with gambling. Teams don't want to take a chance in case it happens again and he gets another lengthy ban. There could be many aspects. Maybe some teams just think he doesn't suit their style of play. So, but for Toney himself, that's his England career over. He's never going to play for his country again. So that's a weird one for him. But when you're making 320 grand a week, I don't think he'll mind too much.
Say that, but a lot of players have went to Saudi and not enjoyed it. And I get the kind of feeling from Toney. Yes, he is a money man, but I kind of get the feeling that he likes to be in the news and likes to be the main man. And
He's a bit of a.
Not going to be in the news out there, is he?
No, unless he gambles out there with all the money.
Maybe he's allowed to gamble out there. I don't know. I mean, we're hearing this one as well as possible. Chelsea are really pushing to get a deal done for Osimhen. Owen, would this be the sign under the window?
Probably, just because there hasn't been that many big deals done. I do think, to be fair, I do think Ugarte to United's a good deal. But I think this just about tops it because he's a top striker, like, and he's been wanted all around Europe. PSG wanted him earlier on, the one when that deal sort of collapsed.
Would this make Chelsea favourites for top four?
No, not for me, because as I said, Chelsea's problem isn't goal scoring; it's keeping the goals out. I think their defense could be a problem. I don't think their midfield's great either. I don't really rate Enzo. I like Caicedo as a player. I think he's really good, but I don't like Enzo that much. So my top four, if this goes on, would still be Arsenal, Man City, Liverpool, Spurs, in whatever order you want to do it.
Yeah, and of course Chelsea aren't done there. They're also confident of getting a deal done for Jadon
Now,
Sancho.
this one I don't understand.
We spoke about this as well, but I think somewhere in that boardroom they probably think this is a big coup getting him on, because if they can get Sancho back the form he showed at Dortmund, on a loan with an option we're hearing could be around 25 million, they might look at this as an absolute steal.
I know, but they have about 75 players that can play in that position. So I honestly, I don't know what. So they're going to have Mudryk, who's not going to be in the squad some weeks. Marieke, they're going to have Palmer.
Nick Nack's saying he doesn't see this happening, but I'm telling you, you wouldn't rule Chelsea out of throwing stupid money down and paying the consequences after. Now, I'm hearing they're really struggling to meet the European registration requirements, so that's going to be interesting. But to be honest, I'm not sure how much value Chelsea see in that competition. I think they would much rather, if they won it, fair enough, but I think they'll be more focused on their league form and the cups, the domestic cups.
So what if they don't meet that? Will they get turfed out of the Conference League or what?
Well, they probably won't be able to register a lot of the players they've signed, or some of them might have to. I'm not sure what way it'll work. But the rules are slightly different. I was hearing that Spurs can't sign anyone. Spurs are at their maximum now for the Europa League. They if they signed a player now in the next few years, they could play in the Premier League, but not in the Europa League. So it depends on the homegrown aspect and stuff like that. It's different rules.
Yeah. Do you, just speaking on Chelsea, do you think this will all come back to bite Chelsea eventually?
Yeah, definitely. Darren's making out that point. Yeah, we're hearing Darren the buy option or possibly an obligation. It could be 25 million. So United,
it was 75 million, I think they paid for him, but it's still
50 million hit on Sancho possibly. That one will be interesting.
They've took a hit on a lot of deals, because Wan-Bissaka, they sold him for 21 million, they bought him for 50. It's like,
yeah. Now a big story that was coming out earlier on today was a possibility of Raheem Sterling moving to Arsenal, but we're now hearing that is very unlikely due to the finances involved. Arsenal are only prepared to sign him if either Chelsea release him from his contract, and of course that would mean them paying him 70 million up front, or that they negotiated with paid probably over half of his wages, and Arsenal paid a small loan fee. But again, Chelsea not prepared to lose that much. So it makes this situation even stranger that he's on such a long contract, a 3-year contract that he's on over £250,000 a week, possibly up to £300,000 a week. It was always going to be very difficult to get him out the door in such a short space of time. So unless they were really willing to sort of release him, I'm not sure any team out there sees him as a viable option, because Arsenal would have to take on a player on their wage book at 300 grand a week, and of course if they bring him on loan, it could upset the whole apple cart, because he would probably be their highest paid player.
Close to it anyway. As I said at the top of the show, I don't really have much sympathy for Sterling, because he kicked up a fuss about the same thing at Liverpool. He kicked up a fuss about leaving Man City, and he's kicked up a fuss about Chelsea. So he seems to be a player that brings drama with him everywhere he goes.
Yeah, I think the issue is, and Nick sort of made some of the points there, is that a club, even if Chelsea were to release him, he would have to then negotiate a lower contract with Arsenal. He'd probably have to come down to 100 grand a week. I'm not sure.
Do you think he'll end up in Saudi before their window closes?
No, I think he's going to be stuck at Chelsea. I really do.
Until January.
What did Chelsea do? But the problem they've got is if he isn't going to be playing him, his value's only going to decrease, and he's still got the problem in January that he's still going to have 2.5 years to go on a contract that's worth £300,000 a week. He's not going to want to get that go.
Do you think they bring him back in?
Unless something changes. Now, I wouldn't be shocked if they are going to get Sancho and Osman. It wouldn't shock me if Chelsea just took a hit and says, look, we'll pay £200,000 a week of his wages and at least save £100,000 a week and get him out the door for a year.
Do you think
Um,
you think
I
he'd
think
be a
that's the
good?
only way. I think that's the only way he makes this move, and
Yeah.
is that if Chelsea are willing to pay 2/3 or at least half of the wages.
Do you think he'd be a good signing for Arsenal?
I think it would be a useful option because I think they're
Mm.
short, and we spoke about that. Jesus is always injured. He's injured again. Havertz is really the only player that can play as a striker. Trossard, possibly, but with
I
all
thought
these competitions, and Arsenal aren't blessed, and Saka stayed injury free last year. That's not to say he'll get the same run of the games this year. You could get an injury. Martinelli's been out of form. I think Arsenal really could have been doing with another attacker in this window because Nketiah looks
I
like he's going to be Crystal Palace.
I really thought that the Chelsea Sancho thing was going to be Sterling going to Man United.
Yeah, I think Sterling, the United's definitely not happening at this stage.
Mm.
Now we spoke about McTominay. The deal in Napoli we're hearing is going to be announced very soon, and that'll probably free up United to announce Ugarte. Of course, United are working very closely on that PSR borderline, so they want to get that deal confirmed before they confirm Ugarte. But this will be United's best signing in the window. You would have thought 23. It hasn't really quite worked out at PSG, but he's a really talented player and highly thought about it, especially in the Uruguayan national team.
I think it's a good signing for Man United. It's what they needed. They needed legs alongside Casemiro. They tried to ship him out. Ten Hag said that he would have preferred to keep McTominay
Yeah.
and sell Casemiro if it was up to him.
Yeah, just to go what we says about that story with Corney earlier on. He is now having a medical at Southampton. Deal agreed. So, barring any hitch in the medical, Corney will be a Southampton player this season for his knick-knack. I mean, I suppose we'll not tax this the Spurs and Liverpool because they haven't really been featuring today on deadline day. Of course, you know, I'm a Spurs fan, you're a Liverpool fan, and it looks like now what we have is what we'll have come 11 o'clock.
Until January, at least.
Till January at the very earliest. So, I mean, what's your thoughts? I mean, we'll speak about Liverpool first. Are you disappointed with the window? Do you think they should have been doing more?
Aye, I'm very disappointed with the one. No, I'm happy with the signing of Chiesa and I'm happy with the signing of uh Mamadashvili, but we needed a number six and I think we needed a left back and I think we needed a centre back. So I would, if he were to ask me to rate our window, I would give it a 3 out of 10.
That's a really low rating. So it is. I mean, now that the transfer window closes tonight, and that after the games this weekend, do you feel that between now and the next 4 or 5 weeks, Liverpool's key focus will be the contracts, getting them tied down, or seeing what's going to happen? Because all three players, now they're in different situations, of course, in terms of where they're at in their careers. Salah and Van Dijk probably towards the back end, whereas Trent still has a lot of years on him. But of course, from January the 1st, they would be able to negotiate pre-contracts with clubs outside England. And of course, we know Real Madrid are massive fans of Trent. And he's friendly with Bellingham. He sees Mbappe there. And, Real Madrid are winning Champions Leagues like there's no tomorrow. So that's the danger. And I think if we don't hear something in the next few weeks with Trent, that you would start to get worried that why hasn't this been done? Is he delaying? Is he waiting to see what Madrid offer? Because I mean, this should have been done a long time ago, and I can't think for the life of me why Liverpool would want to get him signed up. So it seems to me, I remember a situation with Sterling a few years ago where he was saying it was kind of positive he was going to sign, and then all of a sudden he went to Man City, and Liverpool fans were fuming. I just wonder, as Trent the one holding things up here?
No, it's the club. I think as you say, it should have been done a long time ago. But the people in charge now have no excuses to get these done. The transfer window's closed. We've done very little business with at least with. I know we have Bradley, but Bradley's good, but Trent's for me, Trent's one of the best right backs in the world, and I don't care what anyone says.
The worry is if we get the January one and this hasn't signed, it looks like he's going, doesn't it, free because he wouldn't let it run that long.
No, it'll be if it's. I think we'll hear something during the second international break.
Salah and Van Dijk as it coming to an end at Liverpool, do you think, with them two?
Salah, Van Dijk. No, I think Van Dijk will stay. I've said that throughout. I think Van Dijk and Trent will stay, and I think Salah will go. But
what kind of money do you think Van Dijk's going to want to stay?
I don't even know what he's on now. Probably the guts of probably 300, 350 maybe.
Salah reportedly one of the highest paid players in the league, somewhere around £400,000 a week. So
He's our highest paid player. But
the,
then with Salah,
the one out of them two, Salah and Van Dijk, I think Salah's the more important one because I think Salah's got a lot of years on him still. I'm not
that's what
quite
I think.
convinced Van Dijk is.
If it was up to me, I would keep Salah. But I just think there's been that speculation for Saudi now for 18 months, and I just think it'll go there eventually. But I wonder. I see. I wonder is that why we signed Case and now?
What they replace Salah? I think they need somebody more prolific than that, and somebody that's a bit more reliable.
Maybe, but I don't
The
know.
danger is if Salah and Van Dijk go, they are the two that you would out of the three you would imagine that Trent is the one they really want to keep. But if those two were to go, and you're saying they're short of a left back because Robertson's getting older, there's no real cover there because you don't rate Shimikas. They need a number 6. There's still a big question mark over Nunes. That would leave them a lot to do next summer, wouldn't it? I mean, that would be a huge effort. They would do all that in one window.
Regardless of what happens, I think we're on for a big summer next year.
I can't believe they haven't sorted this number 6 situation out, but this summer, take the pressure off that for next summer.
I'm not. We tried to, but we should have had a succession plan. If that didn't work, and we clearly didn't. But it's not just been the summer. We tried to get last summer. But you've spent nothing this summer. Should FSG lads and they don't like to spend. But last summer, well, we tried to get Bellingham. We tried to get Tchouaméni. We tried to get Lavia. We tried to get Casado, and we ended up with Endo. And now we have Gravenberch in there. So there's been a lot of players that we've tried to get that just don't want to come. It seems so. Whether we go back in next summer for Zubimendi, I wouldn't, but I don't know who because there's a girth in that position of there's not many out there that are at the elite level that aren't already at clubs.
Yeah, and of course Spurs, Owen. There seemed to be a real focus on shifting a lot of the dead wood this window, and they've probably done all of that. They only really Reguilon there to go because Betis are going to sign Lo Celso before the deadline. It looks like, and Reguilon I think is one of those ones that a bit like Ndombele. I think if they'll be happy to release him, to be honest, because he's not going to be part of the plan. So unless they get him out the door in the next few hours, he will be gone as well on probably a release because he won't be registered. So there'll be no point in keeping him around. So
Liverpool might buy him as a backup.
Well, if you look at it, Spurs have shifted Højbjerg, Skip, Lo Celso, Ndombele, Sessegnon, Emerson. A lot of the players they haven't. Sanchez left last year. Lloris left in January. Dyer left in January. A lot of the players in this 12 months that Spurs fans wanted gone are gone.
Yep.
So they haven't probably replaced them in terms of numbers, but they've invested in a lot of young players. Solanke being the only one in this summer that was probably of peak age, 26 or so. The rest are all young. But is that a big gamble for Spurs? They go on with such a young, inexperienced squad and hope these players is going to be. Now, I know a few of them have looked okay in the first few games, but when it comes to the crunch in Europe, comes to the big Premier League games, these boys are going to have to learn fast.
It's a tough situation for them young lads to come under, but as the old saying goes, if you're good enough, you're old enough. So Spurs must see that they're good enough to play for now. But it's good for Spurs that they got rid of the deadwood, and a lot of Spurs fans would have been happy to see it go.
Yeah, of course, Darren's saying here he thinks it'll be a big year for Liverpool, but we keep saying that every year, don't we? So that's got to change.
What I meant by a big one though is I think we'll bring in more players in this year. I don't think we'll be spending the guts of 200 million.
Yeah, depends. Of course, Liverpool, a bit like Spurs as well, have shifted Deadwood and got some good fees on for players. And I think that's been, Spurs have spent 65 on Solanke, providing he hits the add-ons, 40 on Gray, and 30 on Odegaard, providing he hits the 5 million add-ons. So
Liverpool spent 30 on Mamadashvili and 12 on cases.
But, for that money we're chatting about, Spurs have recouped plenty of that in sales. So again, it should leave Spurs in a decent position to go again next summer. And I think Ange is kind of hunting towards that come this time next year, the squad might be where he exactly wants it to be. Although he says in the media he's happy, you kind of feel that this was going to be a 3-year plan to get them competing to where he thinks they should be.
No, it's definitely good for Spurs. Like, and I do like some of the players that he's brought on. Bergvall has a lot of potential. They become a good player over the years. Archie Gray is hardly thought of. And I don't know much about Odegaard, to be fair, but Spurs have a guts of a good squad there. And if they can add it over the years, who knows what can happen?
Yeah, I think they could have been really doing well left back because Udogie gets injured. We're in trouble because Ben Davis can't play there anymore, especially not in the Sands system. So we'll have to play Spence there.
And
I don't know.
he looked like he was, when Spence did play there, he looked like he was lost.
From what Ange says last week, he was hoping to get at least an R1 on. He did say in his press conference today that they don't believe in signing anyone that's not going to improve. So it suggests that to me that whoever they had in mind either wasn't available or has maybe gone elsewhere. I don't know. But
Spurs and Liverpool are very similarly run, aren't they?
Yeah, definitely. Owen saying, or Nick saying that Slot seems happy with the squad. Do you think he is happy, or do you think he's just kind of put it on a brave face in front of the media?
No, I think he is happy, but I think he would have liked a couple more names in.
Yeah. Owen, before we finish, winners and losers in the transfer window. I think Newcastle have to take the L. I know Liverpool, you're saying, had a poor window, but yes, Newcastle have kept their star men, but they haven't added to that. And I think that squad look at very early in the season, but I just get the feeling it's gone a bit staler, and they needed fresh faces and fresh legs on there. And looking at them in the first few games, it looks like it could be right. It could need a change, I think, and Eddie Howe could be the one that pays the price if they don't improve this year.
Well, that's what I said at the top of the show. I just don't think they look happy. Like, as you said, Joe Linton doesn't look himself. Gordon's had his head turned by the move to Liverpool that didn't happen. And as you say, if it's another bad season, Eddie Howe could be on the chopping block. So I do agree that Newcastle are up there as one of the ones who's had a bad window. But for me, I would have to put Liverpool there as well.
Yeah, just some breaking news. Done deals. Southampton have completed the loan of Maxwell Cornet, and Everton, as you said earlier, have completed the loan move as well of Oriol Mangala. So they've strengthened as well.
There's another player I have to start hitting.
Yeah. Hard to judge these signings until Christmas comes around. So often we think teams have done good business and signs the right flops. Of course, you have to wait and see. And finally, biggest winners, I think possibly Brighton. They've had a really good window. Of course, they made a lot of money in the last few years, but they really went out this year and attacked the market. And I see a lot of fans of our clubs thinking, geez, we could have got that player that Brighton went for. And usually when Brighton sign players, they usually turn out to be good.
Oh, there'll be some of them players that they've signed. They'll be going for like 100 million in 18 months, probably. But no, Brighton have had a good one though. Like, I really like Matt O'Reilly. I know he hasn't played at a high level, but he looks.
Unfortunately, bad injury. He's going to be out for a while.
I picked up a bad injury. Manta looks like he's a steal. That's an R1 Newcastle didn't want to sell. Who else have they signed? They've signed the left back from Turkey who played in the Euros. He looked like a good player in the Euros.
Time will tell. Looks very good in midfield as well.
Weaver, I've seen about a hum at Feyenoord. They've signed. Who else? They've signed
a lot. Of course, as well. Our teams have had good windows as well. But just a comment on here on screen from Darren. He's looking to know what we think for the Derry and Galway game. Of course, big game for Derry tonight. Kicks off in Galway is always a bit of a smelly fixture, and away from home it'll be difficult. Dundalk take on Shelbourne at the same time. So another big night in the areas in the League of Ireland. And I mean, Derry at the moment, you just have to win games, and it doesn't matter how you win them. If you come away with 3 points tonight, it'll be a big step forward.
Aye, Derry aren't great away from home, as you say, but I'm going to go with 1-0.
Hopefully.
Andre Wisdom, they score a header.
I want to thank everyone who's watched our Friday night podcast. Now, of course, it was a bit of a deadline day theme. I'm still unsure whether we come back on about 9 o'clock. We will see what happens in the next hour and a half or so. If there is sort of left field moves and big news, we may do a podcast. But we will keep you updated on the page about that. But I think as it is now, I think we've covered a lot of the stories. So unless there is big changes out there, I think we will keep our powder dry and go because I think we've delivered a pretty good podcast here. And Darren says, yeah, brilliant lads, really enjoy it. Nick, it was brilliant to have you with us.
Yep.
If you enjoyed, make sure to subscribe, like the video, and subscribe for more content. And of course, if you ever wanted to come on, talk about Southampton, just send me a message.
We've done an hour and a half, like.
Yeah, you can send me a message or drop me a comment underneath the video on YouTube if you want. You can always come on and have your say on Southampton. Always love hearing from different fans. So we do. And of course, we don't get many Southampton fans over in Ireland, so it's always good to get a different insight. Owen, brilliant having you on here. An hour and 45 minutes. We covered so much from last week. Of course, we had the disappointment of StreamYard letting us down, but we're back on. We covered that. We had the European draws. We had this weekend's games, and of course, deadline day. So Derry City, of course, if you're local, have a big game at about an hour's time, so you can watch that. And of course, you can keep up to date with all the transfer news on X and of course Sky Sports News. And you never know on deadline day, sometimes the impossible happens. So Liverpool fans, Spurs fans, who knows? You might get a surprise tonight. I've seen it happen before. So if you're new around here, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe for more content. If we're not back tonight, we will see you at the start of next week. They review all of this weekend's action and round up what's happened on deadline day. Thanks very much, and we'll see you very soon.
Cheers, lad.